So the purpose of this video is to talk about the preferred installation arrangement for a dehumidifier. And this diagram has over here on this side is a preferred basement, which is really about the orientation of the air handler being upflow. So that could be in a mechanical room closet, in a garage, any place where the airflow is upflow, or an attic installation, which is pretty much just horizontal flow. On the left side is the preferred installation, which is what we call return to return. On the right side, these alternatives are for return to supply. And so all four are acceptable. Really, it's two styles, return to return or return to supply. All two are acceptable. But what's preferred? Well, return to return is preferred, and for a couple of different reasons. The first thing for return to return is that because the fans inside the air handling unit and the dehumidifier could potentially operate in series, they work easier. So there's less load on the air handler blower and there's less load on the dehumidifier blower. And the CFM remains constant. If anything, the pressure between the two fans could enhance each other, not fight each other. So that's a big part of why return to return is preferred, because it's easier on the air handler blower and it's easier on the dehumidifier blower. The other thing is, when a dehumidifier discharges air, the air tends to be a little bit warmer than the air that entered the dehumidifier due to the process. And so by discharging the warmer air into the return, it's closer in temperature, so there's not as much variance on the actual temperature of the air entering the air handling unit. And by entering the warm air into the air handling unit, it can be cooled and further dehumidified before it's discharged into the space. So that's why that's preferred. On the alternative, which is supply to return, usually that's done when there's space restrictions, where you can't get this required 6 feet that you have to have between the two branches here. When you can't get 6 feet of clearance within a room or a space or an attic, then you can always find a way to get something tied to the return and something tied to the supply. So that's one of the drivers of why to utilize the return to supply configuration. But the fans can be in conflict. That's why there's requirements that say that you have to have airflow that's within a pressure range. Otherwise, if the fan from the system runs at too high of a pressure, it'll actually become a conflict with and block the airflow from the dehumidifier. So the fans are actually pushing against each other in a return to supply configuration, which is harder on each of the blowers for both the air handler and the dehum. Also, the air being discharged into the supply is warmer than the return. So you're taking cold supply air, now you're mixing warm air with it, which could sort of have an impact, minor, but could have an impact on the cooling effect of the air going into the space. So we prefer to do the installation where we go from return to return, so the air gets sucked out by the dehumidifier blower and then redistributed back in. At that point, the air goes through the normal cycle, through the air handling unit, through the cooling coil, and then off into the space with cold discharge air. That's the recommended way. It works better and everything works more efficiently that way. And that's how I do it at my house as well. So any questions, let me know, but that's how we do it. Return to return is the preferred method. Return to supply is acceptable, but has some disadvantages. Boom.